One of our biggest practices, every time she used to go into a practice, chaos every single week. And now she's just gone from chaos to calm. It's completely calm. She knows what's happening. She's control over every patient. They say it's worth it. There is the disruption, but it will be worth it if we have a good plan and we get through to the other side. And then also things like 5 timesing the private capacity because of the space that they've created from more efficient diary management is also a positive that comes with it as well.
Right, boys, you ready to go?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right, we're going to start with you, Ed. Do you want to do a quick intro into who you are, what you do?
I'm not sure about the last bit. I'm not sure I can convince on that. I am Ed from Dental Monitoring and I am currently marketing manager. So I joined the company as a sales account executive first of all. Not from dental at all. The background was NHS surgical sales. Mm-hmm. And then heard a little bit about Align technology and kind of saw Dental Monitoring were doing something quite disruptive. So tried to get a job with them. Didn't get it the first time round, but second time round, luckily they took me on. And then, just really got immersed in it. And the marketing thing came up, thought I'd take the opportunity. And here I am just trying to learn as I go along a little bit, but enjoying it.
Has the person left now who didn't hire you the first time?
They have, but we won't talk about that. We won't talk about that just in case they do end up seeing this. They're still in dental, so to be careful.
Shame on you. You missed out. You're bad. And Aaron?
Yeah, so I'm Aaron. I've been at Dental Monitoring now for a year. I head up the UK and Ireland business. Prior to that, I was working in dentistry and orthodontics for 11 years at Align Technology, and I was running the UK and Ireland for Itero. And then before that, I was managing a sales team there, and I used to work out in the field selling as well for a time, which was great fun. So I've been in dentistry for 12 years now.
God, and you've seen the full disruption onto disruption, right?
Exactly, and that's really what's it's been positive disruption, right, as well. And that's really what my career is centered around, I would say.
So you get bored easily then?
No, I don't get bored easily, but I'm just interested in finding technologies that will make a positive impact and some disruption.
Yeah. Like it. Nice. So let's get into it then, boys. DM and the NHS. Shall we start there?
It's a good place to start. Yeah, it's. I think the NHS typically has been running a certain way for a long time, and I think everybody that's listening would understand that it's under pressure. And unless something changes, there's probably going to be further issues with it. So we believe we've got something that can help within the orthodontic side of the NHS, and we've done a lot of work, a big focus on it to try and come up with a product, a price offering that actually works. But it takes a lot for a practice that's running the same way for 10 years to essentially transform their practice. It's quite a big transformation, but we are seeing some huge impact from doing it now with Dental Monitoring and their workflows. It's a big focus of ours at the moment.
And I was reading that DM is cutting appointment times, and we know all of this from the private space, right? But what is that in reality? Is that translating through into the NHS case studies and people who are early adopting? What are you guys seeing from that perspective? Yeah,
so when we look at our customers that do large volumes of NHS patients, because the NHS patient volumes are huge.
Massive.
So when you see it at that scale, what we're typically seeing in studies, and the study that we have, is that what they would do in 5 days, working full-time, they would actually do in 4, if that makes sense. So extreme efficiencies, treatment times, if you take the average treatment length, it might be 18 months. We're then typically seeing that it's 2 months shorter as well with DM. But that, at scale, is it's actually where you see probably more of the impact of the efficiencies. And what we're really trying to help people do, because very often the NHS sits within a mixed practice of NHS and private. So you probably hear us say this a lot, but ultimately we're looking to help people tame the NHS and create capacity to also do some more private. So they better manage the NHS actually, because there's better care, more efficient, less chaos, but then also that capacity to develop the business.
And let's be real, do you think that the NHS is actually ready to be tamed in the way that you are aspirationally going about it?
Well, Ed, you can talk about their 10-year plan maybe, and
so it's an interesting area because I think you get reform, you get for now we've got the 10-year plan. There's a lot of good suggestions, shall we say, but in terms of actually making changes, it needs implementation. It needs real change and real change in the way that they're doing things. But if you look at the 10-year plan, a lot of it is looking now more at a therapist-led model, not just in orthodontics. And what we've learned is actually our offering works. It works across the board, but particularly for orthodontic therapist-led model, it works really well. And that fits in with it. Also, innovation, and everybody's obviously talking about AI is like the buzzword at the moment, innovation and within the NHS. So in theory, it ticks a lot of boxes of what the NHS are looking to do. And when we speak to people when they're looking tendering for contracts and things like that, the patient experience, the communication, the innovation should all be improving their chances of getting contract, etc. And so we feel that we fit really well into it in theory. But whether the NHS, the ICBs, for example, start to take note of what it can do, we're not quite there yet. But we hope to elevate where we're at with that.
Yeah, because it'd be amazing where it was a staple. Do you know what I mean? But mandated from an NHS perspective, not for the fulfillments of the contracts. That would be a phenomenal kind of.
That's where we would like to get to. We just need to prove it with the practices we're working with now, and then obviously present. I think part of our issue is sometimes people aren't necessarily aware. I think you'll know because you've been around it for a long time, but people think DM aligners, which is something we're trying to get away from, because see the NHS, there's no aligners, it's all fixed braces, and people aren't really understanding or maybe don't have the awareness before we speak to them of what DM does and how it actually impacts patients that use braces.
So it's aligners and braces essentially.
It's everything.
Yeah, perfect.
And question 3, talk me through what the onboarding of dental monitoring for a busy NHS practice that has units coming out of their ears. They want to go through that journey of actually, I want to tame this side and build a really fully viable private side of the business as well. Talk me through how you would step them through that adoption.
Yeah, so I'll take that one. So ultimately, let's say we approach an orthodontist, has an NHS contract and some private. We'll talk to them about DM, how it can help them grow their business, how it can help them with clinical control, patient experience, all the key things that we know about DM. Let's say they say, okay, great, I get it in principle. Then we'll come back and then we'll make a kind of proposal. This is how we think it could look. So we've got some very special pricing for the NHS to make it work. It's like roughly €1 UOA. So typically people see that and think, okay, that can work. And then the next stage is, okay, so great, if we're going to do it, the classic with all technology is if I take this new technology in, I want to actually integrate it and get it to work. Because many people have bought or invested in technology and not got the result. So that's why we have an entire team of people that are integration specialists. And this is essentially their job. So what we'll do is we'll say, you've got 2 ways to do it. To get to the result that you want to get to, that you've outlined, we believe we can get you there. There's a kind of a slower approach, which is softer. It's like change management. It's like a softer, slower approach. You will get there. It'll be a bit slower. Or we've got the faster approach, which is more of that kind of acute change, where it's more disruptive in the short term, but you'll bring the goals forward. Essentially, you'll hit them a bit sooner. And some people say, okay, for me, I want to start slow because I don't, change management with the team is not that easy. It can be challenging, but we support them. What we often are finding now is people are kind of started saying, okay, I'll do the slow approach. And then they come back and then they say, actually, do you know what? Let's just pull the plaster. Let's get this done.
I'm done dipping my toe when I jump up.
I'll be honest, that's my favourite approach. But I also don't have to lead a team of orthodontists.
Deal with the ramifications later.
Yeah, so we're just there for however to make it work. But what there is a robust plan, and it really gets down into things like diary management, diary zoning. We get quite specific, and because we've done it in so many places, we now know how to implement it everywhere. So we hold their hand. It can be a 2-year plan even, but ultimately it gets them to where they want to get to. If it doesn't work for them, then it doesn't work for us.
But we also, I would say, we don't sugarcoat it. It is a huge change. We have got experience in how to do it. We have a team of 3 in each area that are looking after the practice, but it is going to be disruptive. But on the other side of it, like one of our biggest practices said it used to be chaos every time she used to go into a practice, chaos every single week, and now she's gone from chaos to calm. It's completely calm. She knows what's happening. She's control over every patient. So they say it's worth it. There is the disruption, but it will be worth it if we have a good plan and we get through to the other side. And then also things like 5 timesing the private capacity because of the space that they've created from more efficient diary management is also a positive that comes with it as well.
Oh, I think it is a no-brainer byproduct, right? Like, depending on what your goal is, there's multiple reasons why people will want to adopt it. But I think, in terms of the efficiencies and the byproduct, whether they want that to be time to have a life or whether they want to 5x the business or whatever they want to do, it gives them options in a positive light to do that, right? I think it's a no-brainer from our perspective.
When we look back retrospectively at what some of our biggest users have done, so look back at our existing people, what we'll see is some of the biggest users of DM in the NHS. When I will speak to the aligner providers, they'll say that's also the biggest user of aligners in the country. So it seems like there's certain forward-thinking mindset that's overachieving. And that gives us great hope that the people that are achieving across all fields are doing well, if that makes sense. So it feels like we're getting a positive signal there. Yeah.
So you're highly entrepreneurial people as well. They're not just clinicians. I think there's normally an interlink there.
Forward thinking, yeah. But it takes those people to take the leap, and then we're bringing everybody else in behind. And our goal, our vision is that every NHS patient has DM ultimately, and we get the NHS working and sustainable into the future.
Like a corporate social responsibility thing almost, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's like it's reducing so much travel as well, right, in that regard. So much travel to and from the practice, so much time of kids out of school, keeping them in school, these things. And the orthodontists do incredible work for the kids, right, and it goes overlooked, in my opinion. We are part of that.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, next section, moving on to Smart STL and partner tools. So... Smart STL sounds slick, right? But let's unpack it a little bit more. I'm going to start that again. So Smart STL sounds super slick, but I want to unpack that a little bit more. Talk to me about the key elements, and if someone was completely unaware of why this is changing the game, what are the 2 things that I should really know about it?
Yeah, so it is super slick technology, and it's interesting because we have orthodontists using it, and honestly, it is changing things, but they're getting so excited about this new technology. They're not 100% sure where it's going to lead to, which is quite interesting. But what we are hearing and what we are seeing is essentially it changes things for the practice, but it also changes the patient journey, and the future implications of it could be also quite interesting. So I'll touch on all of those. Firstly, what is it? So right now, if you're using an aligner system and let's say you need a refinement, so it goes slightly off track, I'm the patient, you're the orthodontist, I have to come back in, get a iOS scan and then wait for my refinement aligners and continue off with that. So some patients aren't even aware that refinements are part of the treatment unless it's communicated well. What you can do with Smart STL, with certain aligners, we have the integration. So, for example, with Angel and Spark, we have an integration. And what it is for those that don't know anything about dental monitoring, you get an app, you get a little retractor that fits onto your phone, and with my aligners in and with that out, I would scan my teeth. So let's say the dentist or the orthodontist picks up that things are going off track for whatever reason. I can scan with my phone instead of having to come in for this intraoral scan. I can do it through my phone, and it's accurate. And what that means is that there's a few options. You, as my orthodontist, you could have the aligners, the refinement aligners, ready for me next time I come into the practice. So again, smoothing the patient journey out. Or even taking it one step further, you could ship them to my house if you wanted to. So that's what some of the orthodontists are doing, and the fit's been great. So it is changing the patient journey. So they might not even realise that they're refinement aligners is one element. They could go through the treatment just thinking it's part of it. The bit that I'm most excited about is probably maybe the batch manufacturing process. So there's a lot of waste in aligners at the moment. They might print out 40 aligner trays, and obviously they get through to 20, and then they have to throw 20 away because they've gone off track. So what I think might happen in the future is maybe you print 10, and you do the DM Smart STL scan, and then you see where they're at, and you could print the next 10. So there's no more waste, and you can print it off that Smart STL. So I feel that that's where the future will probably go. Not quite there yet, because it needs the manufacturers really to change the way they're doing things.
Do you think there's appetite from the manufacturers though? Because obviously if you look at that wastage on the scale in which they're looking at, and I know they're talking 3D printing versus, layer and things now, but like that multiplied commercially must have someone stop and think and go, oh, actually, not only the ethical side of it and the, those things, but the commercial benefit to that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I am not at the level where we're having those conversations, but I would assume that these must be conversations that are occurring. I know there's in-house aligners as well, 3D printing, but I that's the way I feel it will eventually go.
So just so I'm getting it clear in my mind, at any point in my treatment, if I'm using the scan box and for whatever reason my aligners don't fit, historically I would have to call up, doesn't fit, come in, have a look, review, get in the chair, we'll decide what we need to do with it, send it away again, or we'll do an intraoral scan at that point, and then, hey, you come back for the fit or whatever. Now none of that exists.
Yeah.
I would just say, I don't think you would call them to say that it doesn't fit. I think you would turn up at your next appointment way off track because you weren't.
Of course, because you're not getting a mid-scan.
Yeah. But if you're scanning, then hopefully we would capture. Yeah.
And I have been in, so on the aligner front, I have done observation days in practices that, let's say, are putting the point across that they're efficient practices, and I've sat in an aligner, like say half a day, and watched every single patient coming in, and either it's a good or a bad surprise. So either they're on track, so they didn't actually need to come in, you could have checked through monitoring that they're on track, or they're off track, so they need a refinement. There's two things I saw, one patient after the other, and it just really sank into me, wow, okay, this is a practice that's claiming to be efficient, and I'm seeing every single patient actually didn't need to come in. Maybe it was just the day I was in there, but yeah, they could have been managing the refinements through.
And the clinicians that I speak to, they sort of go, we used to wait 8 weeks and then find out on surprise day is what they used to call it, right? And now it's like, well, actually, we're looking and observing this 5 days, 3 days, depending on what your scan frequency is. So the level of care is actually enhanced so substantially, like 3x, 4x of what, or across 8 weeks, you're looking at that times, 4 is huge.
Yeah, I talk about it quite a bit, and some people, they would agree with it, some might not, but some people have the assumption that DM is somehow related to almost direct to consumer, a Smile Direct, which is way away from what we want to be. We're really saying it's more care, it's more oversight, it's 8 touch points in 8 weeks instead of 1. And one of our big doctors said that before, essentially, she was flying blind in between, and that's not for me to say, but she said it. And I can't disagree. I think there's a lot of blind spots in orthodontics as it stands. And this should be more touch points, more care, more oversight, and not less.
Yeah.
You can maybe spread the intervals, but you should have a better idea of what's going on than you did before.
100%.
I'm not biased or anything.
Doesn't work for DM or anything. How it makes it easier for the patient. But in terms of the Smart STL impact, what does it have on lab turnaround times for the clinician? Because that's a big thing, right? Like before, if it needed refinement, you had to go through this whole rigmarole and you had to get all these things done and then get them printed and then get them posted and then do this. Like what has been the positive or negative impact of the STL?
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so I was over in Ireland. We had an event with Dr. Owen Crotty, and he's been using Smart STL. He's one of the people that's been using it for a long time, doing a really good job. And I suppose essentially it just speeds things up, because when you speak to a patient, you need to bring them in. then what's that going to be? Maybe a week before that you can get them an appointment. It might be longer. So let's say you then have to get that patient in, then you have to give them the scan. And at that point, when you've got the scan, then you're at the point you could have been on day one had you used Smart STL. So it's really that trip for the booking them in and that trip and that scan. All of that's removed. So whatever that time is there, that's the saving really. Yeah.
Perfect. And do you have any who, I know you guys are open and you work with aligner providers and, you know,
we're agnostic.
Yeah,
yes.
agnostic is the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yep.
Some people go down the route of having their own in-house 3D printers, right, for corrective. Have you had any case studies where people have done that with success, or is it more kind of using the STL with the corrective mid-course correction with the actual aligner provider, which is where you see it going?
Yes, good point, because we see more in-house aligners, retainers, things like that coming up. But to be honest, it can be done, and people are doing it. And I think this is where they might be sort of testing this sort of batch manufacturing process more.
Yeah.
But right now, I would say because we've got a smooth integration with Spark and Angel, it's linked in with their software. I think that's the slickest workflow that we have. I'm sure you can do it, but if you want the slickest workflow at the moment, it's with those two companies that have worked with us to integrate into their software.
And I think it's a big undertaking to do it in-house, right? It's one thing to do retainers, it's another thing to do mid-course corrections, and then worry about the amount of torque and force and all these sorts of things that it's another business in its own right. So I love that. Are you guys good to move on to DM DM Plus tools?
Absolutely.
Anything else on STL that you want to discuss before we move on?
I think that's
Got promotions. Got promotions, haven't we, currently?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What promotions you got running?
Yeah. Basically, if you are a Spark provider or an Angel provider, you can get 2 free Smart STLs per patient. So if you're using dental monitoring, you can give it a try if you like, no extra cost to it. So I think it's a no-brainer if you are using either of those appliances. Absolutely, now's the time to look at it, because no extra cost. You're going to be at the forefront of technology. If you want to differentiate your practice, DM is a tool to do that, and then Smart STL is something that very few people in reality are able to offer. But if you can get across what it does for the patient, and you talk about being a high-tech practice, this is a really good way to do that at no extra expense.
Nice. Any other offers? I love that, because I think if particularly for us, our role is helping people close in consults, right? Driving them to you and closing them to become patients. But being able to sit down with the patient and say, look, it's biomechanics of a human. Things go off track, right? Like, it's normal. And we wouldn't be specialists sitting here and telling you that wasn't the case if it wasn't. But what we have is something that nobody else has, which is the ability to plan for that and account for that. And get you back on track with, certainty and minimal disruption. I think that's a huge USP.
It is, and actually, when I was saying it out loud, I hadn't really thought maybe we need to get that across to the practices that are doing it. I know there's some that are doing it more than others, but are the patients kind of aware of what
100%.
this does?
Everyone else is going to set you through your aligners and then go, we probably need to do a refinement, right? Which, fine, totally normal, totally been okay, but actually we're going to do if there's anything major, we'll correct it, but actually, even if we want to, we can do a couple of other corrections to get you back on track in order to do that and keep you within your treatment window. There's so many ways you could spin that for the patient. We need to take note of that for our consulting stuff. DM Plus dropped this year. Everybody's talking about game changing, the future, innovation plus. Why? What's so different about it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think also a bit like the Smart STL. We've got this amazing technology. Dental monitoring plus is the next big thing and game changer. Everybody in orthodontics, dentistry, game changer. We've got the game changing. We're so efficient. We've got all these game changing technology, and it is being linked a lot. The feedback is from the orthodontists that are using it. It is a game changer. Primarily braces, fixed braces. It's digitizing fixed braces, if you like. But also for aligners as well, it's quite amazing what it can do. Essentially, right now, the way it works is you need an initial intraoral scan, and then the technology allows them every week when they take the scan, it will create a 3D study model. So that allows a few things. You can do custom exact measurements. You can use it for the patient experience to actually every time they come in, you can show them their teeth in a 3D model and manipulate it around on a weekly basis and show them what's happening. If they're using the elastics, for example, we know elastics come up a lot. You'll be able to tell whether they're wearing the elastics or not, because you'll be able to do the accurate tooth movement on a weekly basis. So essentially, it creates a 3D study model, which was never possible before. And where that's super interesting is if they're scanning, and let's say, again, you're my orthodontist and I'm a therapist and you're prescribing, most of the time the DM scans are very good quality and you can prescribe off them. But sometimes if you need to look from a specific angle, or you need more details, it's going to give you that in the 3D study model. So it's just giving you, it's almost like aligners, or everything is digital. It's a digital brace program. So you've got the ClinCheck on the aligners, for example, the software, that's the plan. This is the reality. This is actually what's happening every week. So the people that are using it now are seeing some big impacts with it, but it is a little bit, again, like Smart STL, where does it actually go to in the future? But everybody I've heard speaking about it says it is game changing. It digitizing the brace, super exciting for them. It's getting them excited, which maybe they haven't been in a while. Do you have anything to add to the DM Plus?
No, I think you covered that perfectly. I guess the one that I hear, I suppose anything I'd add, the one that I would hear a lot is people want to see the class correction kind of 90 degrees on from the side, just so they can be really sure where the canines and molars are. And basically, this gives them that.
Yeah, and the only way I guess I miss is there's custom measurements. So let's say you want to open a certain amount of space for an implant, for example, multidisciplinary. You can set a custom goal on it, and an accurate goal of the distance. And once it's achieved that, it will alert you.
Oh, wow.
So, just detail that has never been possible before. Going to be very interesting to see. And the other element is from a research perspective. Right now, there's a lot of predictability with aligners, certain movements they can predict with certain, confidence. But now you're going to actually see, this is what you planned, this is what happened. There's going to be a lot of data around about what your plan actually results in. So that, to me, from a research perspective, is very interesting.
You can look at sequencing and then efficacy of that. And love it. Auto replies from AI. So in orthodontic practices, right? Teams, let's focus on teams, right? All these new systems, they're now wearing 6 or 7 hats. It used to be you had a Invisalign marketing coordinator, they're now a TC in the chair side, but then they're a DMC champion and all these sorts of things as well, which are all super, super key roles, but they're spread across 10 different ways, right? So any form of support and AI and those sorts of things is welcomed in some respect. In one vein, it's very welcome. In the other, do you think that this is the replacement of the need of TCs and those sorts of people in a practice, or not at all?
We can share this one if you wanted. For me, I don't think it's it doesn't replace the people, but it will change their roles and responsibilities, that, like you highlighted. I guess essentially over time, owners, orthodontists that own their own practices, business owners, DSOs, they might want to shift the way they balance their workforce, and numbers might change over time. But whether or not it would replace the role, I don't think it would do that totally. So the roles are still relevant, in my opinion, but I don't know what you would add.
Yeah, it's a super interesting area, because literally I did a poll on LinkedIn last week, and it was like, what are the biggest challenges you're facing right now? And I can't remember all the things I put down, but number one was staffing by quite a long way. So we know that staffing, recruitment is a challenge, retention of staff is a challenge. Yeah. So we have to be sensitive, because it shouldn't replace staff, but it should allow. So what's happened is sometimes staff maybe have left, And then the practice owner is faced with this challenge of, do I recruit new staff? Can I recruit new staff?
Yeah.
Or can I run my practice more effectively, more efficiently?
Meanwhile, their costs are going up 20-30%, and they're weighing those
exactly,
up. Yeah,
exactly. So there's a practice owner conversation of staffing is this big issue. Is there a way that I can run my practice in an efficient, effective way?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
But none of this works without good staff as well.
100%.
It's an interesting space, but to me, it should free up their time in a certain way so they can get more done with maybe less.
Mm-hmm.
But you definitely need your good staff. It should give them more time to do the things they want to do, see more new patients. But DM wouldn't work unless it was able to help you scale up and automate a certain number of messages.
Mm-hmm.
You still need the staff to be overseeing and triaging.
100%.
And taking good care of dental monitoring dashboard. It doesn't work very well if they're not managing it in the best way.
No, I think you're correct. And I think that there is a complete restructuring that will gradually happen over time. The people in practice, you want them in there wowing and providing the greatest experience. And they're your people. And they are the ones that just thrive on having conversations and making people feel special, right? But then you also need your highly technical and technologically capable people who enjoy looking at things on a screen and seeing things and going, what do we do with that? And analytical and those sorts of things. So I think this skill set is splitting, right? Like what you need is that, but those people don't necessarily anymore need to be sat in the practice either, right?
Yeah.
Which opens a whole nother pool of talent possibility, which is a potential solution as well to what you're talking about, which is number one, which is a staffing challenge. And we see that time and time as well.
Yeah. I know with what you're doing and your, we saw Grant Duncan, some interesting conversations around about managing things. And I think even recruiting people, if they have an option for more of a hybrid role, that's going to appeal to a lot of people. And that's something that not everybody's in favor of it, but certain demographic would be interested in that. And this allows them to open that up for them as well.
Good. Dental monitoring and insights. So this one's super interesting. I've heard Philippe talk about what are we? Are we a data company? Are we, loads of different iterations, but landed pretty much on you guys sit, regardless of that, on one of the biggest ortho data sets in the world, right? That's hugely powerful. And that is something that I don't think people leverage or are even aware is at their disposal. Particularly, I know in our TIO group, we're trying to push them to utilize it more and to understand and be even better and push ourselves and each other to look at things differently based on data, not on fact, not on feeling. What's some of the weirdest stuff that you've seen though?
Weird stuff. I would say that it's interesting because a lot of practices run on feeling. Yes, sometimes they do audits, but a lot of them will have a feeling that something's going on, but not really have the data to back it up. So I think Dental Monitoring Insights gives them the data to back it up. Something unusual that a few practices have seen is they've noticed that there's been, let's say with fixed braces, a lot more debonds on one side than the other. And when they sort of break it down, what we do is we give them the information. They can explore it with the team as to why is this anomaly, why is this occurring? And a few times it's come down to actually the position that they've been standing on, which side of the chair.
No way.
And so, even all being right-handed, of which side of the chair they've been on, and then they've switched around and it's actually reduced the debond rate and things like that, which is
crazy.
A bit peculiar, but it's a few practices that's happened with. So that would be the one that comes to mind. But a lot of the practices you work with, your members are very forward thinking, and even they're not always looking at their data. You're right. I think it's a massively underutilized piece of the puzzle. If nothing else, what we're trying to say is that dental monitoring can improve the quality of your care. We say that, look at your data now. If there's an anomaly, like you've got a debond on one side, something strange occurring or attachments coming off with your lines, what we want to do is you be aware of it first of all, but actually make the changes and measure the data. And then in 3-6 months, did identifying that and making a change actually improve the quality of care we're providing? That's what we're trying to get practices to do, and that's going to have an impact on the treatment the patient, the costs, it's substantial, the impact it can have. So that's what we're trying to do with dental monitoring insights in a nutshell.
And I know you're agnostic, and I don't want to put you in a position,
Yeah.
but I'm going to put you in a position.
Okay.
Which appliances have shocked you and are surprisingly outperforming what we thought they would be? So I'm not asking you to bench appliance v appliance, right? But which ones are actually really over delivering from the statistics that you're seeing? So purely a data, not an opinion, just a data led sort of question.
Yeah. There's a couple that I could mention. I don't know, Aaron, if you have on your mind, but there's one thing we did notice for a while is there's quite a few people using self-ligating brackets. And obviously every week you scan and the AI picks up, hopefully if everything's going well, but if there's something not, you want to know about it. And it was picking up that a few practices on week 1, scan 1, the clips were open to a level which is fairly significant. And so that means that patients were essentially leaving the practice with the open clip. And quite a lot of patients were doing that. So that was one thing. Obviously, once you're aware of it again, you can make sure that it's a user thing. Make sure that the gate's being closed properly, because that's going to be having an impact on your treatments. But from a actual device perspective, I'd say something like the carriers, we've seen a big... people that use it have had a massive change from using that with dental monitoring, because traditionally they would have to bring the patient back and see them every 4 weeks, something like that, to see that it's actually the class correction is going the right way. Whereas with DM, they can set an alert to when class 1 canine's been achieved, let it run, let's say 3 or 4 appointments immediately. So that device with DM has been something that
because before they used to have to overcorrect and then deal with it later, right?
And get them in at the right time. Not have to clock the diary up.
Were you asking about aligners?
You know, I was asking about aligners.
So I used
from
to,
the man
I
himself
used to
that
work
comes from an aligner space.
Right? Yeah. So I think what we see now, and I would not, we're agnostic, like we said. Relationships with all of those companies, they're doing wonderful stuff. I think what we see now is that there's for sure is choice in the market. We see clinically. I would now say that rather than aligner brand being the differentiator, and this is anecdotal actually, and you're asking for data driven, but I'm starting to think now that it's more about skill from the clinician now, and we're actually seeing that there's a relative amount of parity with different brands having different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. 100%. And, we're not just talking top 3. We know there's like 100 odd aligner brands out there, and there'll only be more, right? I think that's a big thing. Mastery in one is going to become a real differentiator between playing with 20. Do you know? And I know they have benchmarks and whatever is important to those clinicians, but I think you will start to see a settling down of the swinging between them. Anecdotal and non-statistical, as I just forced you to be. My team will, I'm like, is that a fact or is that feeling? And they will throw this in my face if I use this. Let's be cheeky. TIO doctors. We like to think they are the greatest in the world. I'm pretty confident that some of them are. In terms of, let's say, number of unseats, efficiency of treatment, where do they stack up in comparison to rest of world?
Yeah. So I would say, because we can see with dental monitoring insights, you get a lot of data, but one of the elements that comes with it is you can compare yourself to other practices in the UK or globally. So, for example, attachment loss with aligners. It will give you your kind of where you're at as a percentage of how many attachments are lost, and then compare yourself to another practice worldwide. I would say there definitely are some of your members that have said to us they would like to market their results, because it says, let's say it says you're top 2% in the world. Of course you would want to tell your patients and market that is your case, and because a lot of your practices are very forward thinking, they are open to these things. They do want to see their data. They like doing the audits. That's the way that they're geared. It does tend to put them in that category where they are higher performers. Not all of them, but
I can imagine there's some special ones in there
anomalies
too.
But yeah, we definitely do see some of them being very high performers when it comes to the data.
Okay. Question 16, just for Mary on the timings. What is one insight stat that you think doctors do not pay enough attention to? So if you were a new DM user, an existing DM user, or someone thinking about DM, what would be the one important stat that is overlooked that you would say do not make that mistake and make sure you look at and focus on this one?
Do you have a thought? I've got one that comes to mind for me, but I don't
Go
know.
for it. Yeah.
I would say we've got a team of implementation specialists, and some of them are from practices, and some of them, they will use the insights a lot with a practice. So they will use the insights and work with the practice to make sure that what they're seeing, the data, they're aware of it, and they're constantly tweaking things to improve the efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the areas that we do that with is with the passive arch wire.
Mm-hmm.
So for fixed braces that Aaron pointed out earlier, sometimes we do what's called appointment on demand.
Yep.
So that is whereas normally a patient would come back in every 6-8 weeks for a fixed adjust or a wire change.
Mm-hmm.
What some practices are doing is they're letting the AI dictate when the more suitable time to see that patient is. Because in reality, sometimes the wire becomes passive at 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe they're going to be in a passive wire for 4 weeks.
Before they're saying,
Yeah. Or sometimes it actually, you go in, doesn't become passive till week 12.
but they've waited another 6 or something.
Yeah, so
or
they're
double
sort of
appointment.
they're coming in and then maybe doing a retie, whatever they might be doing. But it's those small things, but when they compound across a lot of patients, it makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that the passive arch wire goal, you can get that data and look at when it's becoming passive for your patients, is super powerful, particularly if you're going to be looking at a large cohort of patients. It's what really, really makes a big difference to the efficiency on the, let's say, the NHS side.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Great, thank you. Moving on to bigger picture ortho trends. So looking at things a little bit bigger now. People using DM. We know appointments are reducing, minimum of 3, if not much more, in the sort of treatment lifespan of those sorts of things. Do you think we're at a point now where we can start to move into virtual orthodontics, or quote unquote dirty word, direct to consumer, but this time without compromising patient care? Are we there yet?
So I'll take that one if you're okay. So I'd say direct to consumer is a no for us if it's not clinician led.
Yeah.
Essentially, and I think direct to consumer just as a concept has had some big failings.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And I think as much as we want to move remote.
So remote orthodontics.
Orthodontics.
Of course.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. You still will need an X-ray.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not going to replace the proper checkups, right, and things like this. So I think we will see a reduction in or an increase in remote orthodontics and a reduction in visits, but not the visits where physical action needs to be taken. We'll see a reduction at the moment in the visits that were just checkups that were of the type where look in the mouth, everything's fine, see you later. Those wasted appointments, the ones that add no value. But the core checkups and anything where you need to take action will still have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Let's talk experience and consumer. So now we're moving to almost orthodontics as a service in many senses. Yes, there are highly functional cases. NHS covers an element of those, but from a private sense, it's very much we are now an aspirational purchase in some respects, and therefore the expectation skyrockets to a certain point. One of those key things that come into that decision making, or whether or not they see that journey or process as good, as great, as enjoyable, is convenience. Do you think that today a private practice is kidding themselves if they think they're able to compete without offering this kind of convenience that dental monitoring brings to the table?
So, good question. I think there are still practices that can see patients regularly that do give an amazing patient experience, and like a boutique sort of hotel, really really good patient care, and that's the way they want to run it, and that's their USP. Great. But on the flip side, there's a reason why things like Amazon have become so popular, Uber, because of the convenience, and because you know what you're getting with it. You know when things are getting delivered to you. Uber, it tells you when the taxi's coming here. That sort of reduces the uncertainty. And I think if remote monitoring is done properly, it can help on that front as well. It definitely plays into the convenience, but you also need to give a really good patient experience with being responsive to messages. It should feel like your orthodontist is always available in your pocket. You're carrying around your orthodontist almost, if it's done to that level. And that's what will give incredible patient experience. If I'm a patient and I've got concerns, which we know they have, and I can contact the practice like that through the DM app, and I can send them a scan saying, look, this is what's happening, and you respond to me, and you send me a little video showing me how my treatment's progressing. That's what takes it to the next level.
With the toilet roll.
Yeah. Basically, you can't just sort of give them DM and forget about it. There's a lot that comes with it to make it a world-class experience.
Yeah.
But I do believe in the future that convenience element is massive, and I think some people aren't necessarily understanding. There's some companies that are starting to do well where they're really playing on that convenience part, but we want to make sure that the clinician expert planning is always involved with it. You've got the remote monitoring, so you know exactly what's happening with the treatment. They can engage with you. To me, that's what I think is a really world-class experience.
Yeah, and I suppose all I would add to that from a practice perspective, if I were to put myself in the shoes of a practice owner, then we know it's harder than ever to attract new patients. So I think this is a massive differentiator, what we're talking about here. Having these technologies might be the difference between you having giving people a remarkable experience that they go and tell all their friends about, and the neighbouring practice not. So I think I don't think people can afford not to look for those differentiators at the moment.
Yeah, and we need to help, I think, practices convey that message. There's someone I can think of that does it in the US really well. Like, they position themselves as, look, this is what you get. Very simple message. It's the convenience. We're going to look after you. It's more touch points, more care. So we do need to, as Aaron's correct, that it's harder and harder to differentiate yourself. We see a price erosion, let's say, in
100%,
across the board. Everybody's typically on the front of it offering a very similar offering. So how can you, this is one thing that you can do if you position it correctly to really sort of differentiate yourself, but you need to get the messaging across.
We've got a member in San Francisco, deals with a lot of Silicon Valley people, right? So they come up for work, they travel, they have their houses off in other areas, like convenience for them and their families and their kids, because they have quite transient lifestyles, right? And that is exactly who their market is. Top earners will pay, provided it ticks what their need is, and their need is unique and their need is different. It isn't the need of everybody, but sits in this lane and does it very, very well. With DM being a really crucial part of that works well in the sell process.
I think I know the practice you're referring to, and it's a small-ish practice that handles a lot of volume, and that's using DM as a different as keeping the chair time free, so you can deal with the high.
Still
volumes.
has an empty surgery. It's
really?
like I go and sit in it and work in there sometimes when I'm there, but gets through this volume because it freed up
Very
that
impressive.
space.
And there's something else that's not really understood so much, is that, let's say I free up a lot of capacity by using the remote model that works for a lot of patients, then you can spend more time. If someone does want to come in every 6 weeks and needs that real in-person thing, you've got more time to do it. And Philippe, our CEO, often says that there's a slight misconception. DM, you might think, we use DM, we don't see the patient as often. Across the board, that is true, because we are removing unnecessary appointments. But
what does seen mean, right? Like, that's the question. You want to get into it.
Yeah. But the other element would be that some patients need to be seen more in person.
Yeah.
But DM is flagging that up. This patient needs more attention. This patient needs to be seen. They need more instructions. They're not being compliant. So but it's the AI and the oversight that's allowing you to bring that patient in and get them through the treatment faster in person.
Yeah.
Because you've got the data.
Yeah.
Whereas I might give it to Aaron and he might be super compliant and not need to come in at all. But you only know that from monitoring them on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So you would, in that example, have to be delivering care kind of evenly. You'd be able to adjust to the needs of your patient base. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a line, right? And I feel like some people who don't get it might ask this question, so I'm going to ask it on their behalf. There's a line between helpful automation and then information overload, right? So if you look at, remind me how many oral factors you guys can report on a scan?
So there's a couple of ways of looking at this. Before we used to talk about 130 observations, which is true, but we are actually now classed as a medical device.
Mm-hmm.
So FDA approval as a de novo, which means that we're the only medical device in this space, and we've got a lot of data to back up what we're saying, and it's more like I think 16 that we have the evidence to say, we're a medical device approved for these 16 observations.
Mm-hmm.
So it is changing. This is the data back on those 16. We're also looking to get more, but that's what the FDA was approved on, these 16 observations.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I was a user, let's say 130 observations, or these 16 FDA de novo approved, there are controls, right? And you can put preferences in to say, we want to hear this, or we want to know when this happens and that happens. It's not just a matter of, in treatment, you're going to get notified of all of these things, and you get overwhelmed and going, oh my God, there's so many flags happening that I don't know what's happening or what to do. And the team get overwhelmed and the doctor's stressed, and like there's controls, right, to put in place.
Yeah. So there's a lot of data that we capture that we've discussed, and a lot of information that people can access. And I guess ultimately it's for the clinicians to make a decision on what's the relevant level of access for them. So they will just decide, to your point, that maybe we need to see a little bit more of that. Maybe we don't need to see that at all in this certain situation. And then we'll just custom set it up for their needs ultimately. But there's not a shortage of information. It's more about controlling who sees what when, so it's optimized.
I love that. And you'd rather have too much and distill it down than to not have enough, right? Like that.
Because that's where the juice is in the value of the system as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's just then, to your point, you don't want to overload people. You want it to be the right amount of information at the right time to be relevant to the goals.
Yeah. Great. Quick fire questions that orthos wanted answered by DM. Number 1. What happens when a patient sends a terrible scan? Can the system handle my chaos?
Yeah, so the quality of the scan is very important. And we've made a lot of innovations with the software itself that's on the phones and with the scan box to ensure that we get the best quality scans. So we've now got what's called Scan Assist. And when we see the people using that software over the old software, the compliance, the quality of the scans, all of these are trending in the right direction. So the quality of the scan is good. As dental monitoring, we are AI experts. I'm not an AI expert, but my understanding is that when an AI looks at a picture, it doesn't look at it quite the same way we do. It doesn't have to make complete sense. So the AI can kind of also learn from blurry photos and see them almost just as well. But ultimately, when the clinician is then making a decision from those photos, they want to see good photos. So our trend for the technology is clearer photos, and our new technologies that we spoke about with Smart STL and Monitoring Plus, they really rely on good quality scans. So it's the improvements in that we're always making in the quality is basically to make the platform for even more of this great technology, essentially.
Brilliant. When did the Scan Assist come in?
That's a good question. Can't think off the top of my mind. I feel like it's been around for about a year.
Just under, because I certainly rolled it out and I've been in the business a year, so maybe 9 months or so ago. Yeah.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
It's the dots. So now
Yeah.
the dots and doing more attempts at the bite, and it is phones are tricky because they're always bringing out new phones, and they've got cameras and flashes in different spots, and we're always trying to adapt to these different new phones.
Different zoom camera settings and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Will this integrate with my PMS and aligner platforms, or is it more juggling for my team?
So we know integration is super important, and we have a team working with anyone that's interested in integration.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, OrthoBridge within Orthodontics is
I've worked with this team; they're very good.
Yeah. So they're busy. You know, a lot of practices using them, and we integrate with them, which is great. We're looking at some of the scanners as well. You know, the software with Spark and Angel. So yeah, integration is something that we're open to. We're keen to work with companies and say we're agnostic, but we want to work with companies so it makes things easier and better for the practices.
It's a key focus for us to be fully integrated with all the key systems. I think we're pretty much there, but there's always more we can do, and we can always go deeper with the integration. But it's odds on that for an orthodontist we will be there. But that's like a number one priority for us.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What does remote monitoring actually cost per patient? And is there really an ROI in an NHS setting?
I think we've got quite a round number for the NHS. So the NHS patient is paid as a fixed fee based on a contracted amount that the contract owner has. And per patient, there are 21 UOAs, which are units of orthodontic activity. And essentially, for the NHS, our pricing will be, they vary slightly, but roughly, essentially, 1 UOA.
It's not much.
We keep it
and
simple.
that's the maximum. That covers 36 months of treatment, includes the scan box. So we've got it to the lowest pricing in the world, and that's per patient. So we have it to that point, and it had to get to a stage where it worked within the margins. But even that's going to get efficiencies, but when you start to look at the private capacity, and then it gets very interesting in terms of what it brings to a practice, and then that has an effect on the valuation of the practice. So yeah, that's where we're at with it. Yes, the answer is it does give a return, and that's the costing that we've come up with for NHS.
But your quantification
We're
is 1
very-
UOA.
At maximum.
At maximum, and we're very confident in the people that we've spoken to about this pricing, because we're always looking to make DM fit for the NHS.
100%.
That people say that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Good. How can I use DM without overwhelming my TCs or coordinators?
So I think that you need to look at the whole team. So there's certain tasks you can assign to reset. You need to get the whole team actually involved, particularly if you're doing thousands of patients. Putting it on one person isn't going to work because let's say that it's going to be overload, and let's say they leave or maternity,
High
whatever
risk.
it might be.
Yeah.
So I would say the way to do it is to get one of our implementations team and to see how the practice works and see how you can delegate certain elements to the therapist, the reception, TC, the orthodontist themselves. That's the way it will work, by sharing it and not overwhelming.
We also have the possibility to have customers visit a site, a practice that's using DM for their NHS and their private, and to be immersed for a day. And they can do this almost at any time. So if anybody is interested in that, of course, they can reach out to us.
Great. Think of me as an old school NHS doctor. I think you have in many ways, but pitch it to me. Why? What's the clincher? Why should I care?
This is one that we must know this answer, right? I think we're here essentially to help you achieve more with less, tame the NHS, and develop your private. That's why we exist.
Short, sweet, to the point.
Get you to your goals. We care about you getting to your goals. We just want to be a part of that.
Yeah. No, I love it. What it says on the tin, plain and simple. Nice. future's obviously bright for you guys. Always developing, always innovating, lots of cool stuff happening here, States, all around the world. What's next? What cool things can you share at this point that are potentially embargoed?
I think there is always, because it's technology, it's fast moving. I think there's always things on the far horizon, but I would still say that Smart STL and Monitoring Plus, I have to bring it back to those two. They're enormous, essentially game changers. Who thought that you could use a mobile phone to make an actual STL file that's FDA approved and the European version, the MDR. And then also, if you look at Monitoring Plus, we're digitalizing braces, which has been completely analog the whole time. And actually bringing that into the digital era, helping people treatment plan, manage their treatments into that's completely new levels. So for us, I think these still, I don't mean to be like a broken record, but I think these still are kind of right on the horizon for us. And I'd say that these two, I wouldn't want to look past them right now. But of course, there is a phenomenal roadmap too.
I.e., they don't want to tell us yet, but I'm sure there's some cool stuff cooking in the background. These things don't just develop overnight.
NDA.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's all we've got time for today. Make sure you subscribe and stay ahead of the curve. We'll be dropping a new episode of Tim Talks every month. Thanks for listening.